This may be my favorite video in a very long time because today we are talking about specialty grinds on pens. I have stuck every single specialty grind I have into a pen, and we're going to go through them all and talk about who did them, what I have in my collection, and what I want to get next. So we're going to use my Galen Folio for this, and I've swatched everything out. So you can see all the colors that are in pens. First up, we've got my Esterbrook Scarlet. Currently, this has a fine architect nib from Cursive in it. This is actually a Gold Spot Yovo number 6 nib that I put into this pen because I didn't have any extra Esterbrook nibs at the time. And Kirk turned this into an architect for me at the Chicago Pen Show in 2025. I don't know what angle it is because I ended up giving him an architect that I knew I liked and just asking him to copy the angle. I do really like this pen, and I like that it's a Yovo 6, which means I can swap the nib into a bunch of things. Up next, we have my extra fine mini stub Pelican that Matthew Chen did for me in October of 2024. I was in love with the pen body, but I was having some issues with the nib, and I knew I liked a mini stub in theory, and so I took the pen to Matthew and I just went, can you do something to fix this? And he turned it into a mini stub, and I absolutely adore it. The mini stub has become my favorite nib grind in anything, which you will see because this next pen is another extra fine mini stub. This is on a Heinz pen. I got this at the Chicago Pen Show in 2025, and it is just on a Heinz nib that I got from Heinz, and then Matthew ground. He was sharing space with Heinz, and so I got a little bit of a deal on getting the nib work done, but this is a pen I'm currently daily driving. I utterly adore it. It's got a Visconti ink in it, which I'm loving because it matches the pen, but I also don't always love. It doesn't write super nicely on some papers. It'll be swapped for something at some point. Now, this is very exciting. This is a Monoline broad that Julia of Julia Here did for me. And I've got a couple of these nibs in this video because Julia actually gave me 3 nibs. They're all size 6, which means I can put them in a whole bunch of my pens. They're size 6 Yovos. And currently I am sort of daily driving them all. They're in pens that mom's grabbing as well. And so we're just sort of having some fun with them, but I love that I've now got friends that are doing nib grinds and I get to try out their nibs. This next pen is also a Monoline from Julia, except this is a Monoline on a broad nib, and oh my god, I love this pen and nib combo. It is currently inked with Mont Blanc Renoir, and I think it's a stunning ink for this nib, and I really love a broad monoline. I didn't think I was going to. I thought I was going to like a smaller monoline, and I do, but there's just something about this broad that I utterly adore. We have my Esterbrook mini stub from Kirk, and this is actually the nib that you can buy from Esterbrook. This should be inked with pink. It appears like I didn't get all the blue out of it the last time I had it inked, and so we're sort of writing with purple. It's a very pretty pen. It's a very pretty nib. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the Esterbrook specialty nibs. There are a couple that I really like the Journaler and the Techo, that I'm sure I'm going to add to my collection at some point. For now, though, mini stubs, if you haven't figured it out already, are clearly my favorite grind. I've got them on a bunch of pens, and I just love how they write. Up next, we have another mini stub, and this is another one from Matthew. This is an extra fine mini stub on another Heinz pen, and I got it at Chicago this year. So 2025 Chicago Pen Show. Because he was sharing a table with Heinz, I got the pens from Heinz, so I got a discount on the nib work, and I'm not a fan of extra fines. But I was getting my pens late in the show, and my nib options were a little bit limited. Especially because currently I'm sticking to finer nib sizes because they're what I'm using more. It's currently inked with Tesla coil. Tesla coil in an extra fine mini stub so much fun. This is my Cursive Italic Smooth Kaweco Sport nib that Matthew did for me at Scriptus 2024. For whatever reason, it doesn't like this ink. I'm having an issue with it and this ink, and they're just not vibing. This is a beautiful nib. I think the ink is too dry for it, and it's just not writing super nicely with this ink, so I'm going to end up flushing it out and putting a different ink in it. But I will link a different video above where you see this nib in action, because it is a truly stunning nib that Matthew did. I felt a bit weird about getting such an expensive nib grind on such an inexpensive pen, but the reality is I daily drive 2 to 3 Kaweco Sports at any given time, and so it was worthwhile for me to get a fancier nib grind on something that I use all the time, which is how I treat my nib grinds. If you've noticed a pattern, nearly everything I have in my collection is a size 6 Yovo, so that I can move things around, and I do that frequently. Almost none of my pens are stored with their nibs in them. This is another monoline from Julia. This is a much smaller mono line, and I've currently got it inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku. It's so much fun. It's really hard to decide if the Broad Renoir is my favorite or if this one's my favorite. I will say I'm daily driving the Iroshizuku one more because of the papers that I use, but I do love the Renoir. And then finally, we have the pen that has pretty much been in my hand constantly since Annabelle did it. This is my medium architect nib on a Pilot Decimo. I let you guys on YouTube vote with what was going to happen to this Pilot medium nib that I was not in love with, and everyone voted that I turn it into an architect, and you guys were so right. I absolutely adore it. So what comes next? Well, I think I'm going to end up buying another Pilot section because I do love my Pilot pens, and I really want a mini stub for my Pilot. So I've talked to Kirk, I've found out what size Pilot section he'd recommend, and I think my next nib grind is going to be a mini stub for the Pilot. But I'd love to hear your suggestions down below.